Let's go.
After the celebrations in Trafalgar Square, Sunderland arrived at the home of football as underdogs, finishing 14 points behind Sheffield United, with a starting 11 assembled for less than the total cost of one of Sheffield United's January bench signings. Could the Black Cats outgun a parachute payment team loaded with talent? The odds seemed stacked against them. The Blades had won more games than Sunderland, scored more goals, conceded fewer, and never had a team entered the playoffs in worse form than the Black Cats. Sheffield United had become only the third team in history to score 90 points and not get automatic promotion. One of the other two was Sunderland in 97-98. But none of that tells the full story. In the two games Sunderland and United had contested in the league, Sunderland were better in both. And Regis Le Bris had opted to keep his powder dry and his players fit for the playoffs once the top six was confirmed. And so, Dan Neil led out the youngest team in playoff history and became the first local boy since Race Carter in 1937 to do so at Wembley. Sunderland had drawn the West End of the ground, and in 11 previous visits to the home of football they had never lost when fans were housed in the West End. The EFL Cup, the League One playoff, the FA Cup in 73 and in 37 all were won on the only occasions we had had the West End of the ground. Brings new meaning to Sunderland West End, I guess. Regis Le Bris started with a 4-2-3-1 formation, the same team that dominated the last 25 minutes of extra time against Coventry. Lefay was playing as a central 10 this time, with Rigg on the right and Mundle on the left. The most important aspect of this was how the double pivot of Neil and Jobe would perform, and much of Sunderland's build-up would have to flow through them forwards. Do this successfully and get the ball to Lefay ahead of them, and we should be able to fashion chances. But still, the team that was set to start had 0 Premier League starts in their experience. The Blades had a starting 11 that totalled 294 Premier League starts. And as the noise reached fever pitch, the richest game in world football kicked off.
They've been in an almost unique position for the last 2-3 months of the season. And so we gather under the famous arch.
And Sheffield United were out of the blocks fast, pressing play out of possession. Pato taking a little too long on his clearance here and making my heart leap.
Immediate pressure coming the way of Anthony Patterson in the Sunderland goal, and
Sunderland seemed nervous, misplacing passes.
As the best of their right-back options, which has been a problem position for them throughout.
Gus Hamer leapt on one of them and floated a ball to the back post for the 6'4" Kiefer Moore.
Ball for Moore to Moore. Remarkable save by Patterson.
Only for Patterson to pull off probably the greatest save in playoff history.
But it's an even better save by Anthony Patterson.
That ball is behind him. To claw that out is outstanding.
To deliver the cross is criminal. The goalkeeper has really saved his team there. Kiefer Moore, I bet he can't believe he hasn't scored.
But in the moment, Luke O'Nien had dislocated his shoulder attempting to foul Moore, and he was out. Needing gas and a stretcher, it seemed to take an inordinate amount of time for Regis to accept that Luke would play no further part in the game. That's why we were slow getting Mepham on. But that's what Regis is like. Slow, methodical, certain. And when we did get the sub on, it was a straight swap with Mepham replacing O'Nien.
Didn't we? Because we played on, I'm talking about agony. There it is. Wish him well.
Like lots of modern teams, Sheffield United press high, hard and fast, and they have pace to do it with, as we've already seen. But this aside, the Blades are essentially an old-school plodding team. They largely play direct football and use their pace to counter with. Outside of this counter-attacking opportunism, their chief goal is to pump the ball long to the big man up front, Kiefer Moore. He will either attack goal, if loose enough, or knock it down to players running in behind him, and hope that the momentum of play pushes the opposition back. And Sunderland struggled to get to grips with this direct, physical, fast approach. Passes went astray under pressure.
10 minutes they've been forced back. They're second best.
Dan Neil on the ground.
And the loss of Luke O'Nien had shaken the lads. Our chief playmaker playing out from the back had gone, and we struggled to pass from the back. Frankly, we were dominated in the opening quarter, and we had few chances.
And he's keeping Sirkin honest here, but he has committed a foul.
What chances we did have came from corners as Sheffield United sat compact and shut us out. Here, smart play from Job allowed Mundle to earn a corner.
First chance for Mundle. And some reward from his first involvement.
And Rigg sits out with Neil further back to protect second balls, and Sheffield United look to break quickly with Vinny Souza.
His move in there, but Cooper making a confident claim.
But they can't make anything of it because Rigg never allows the crossfield runner to get in front of him.
Being led by Vinny Souza.
Moments later, Sheffield's direct play delivered the first cut. This is a planned move at a corner that requires Rigg in the box instead of in a defensive position out of the box. Instead, Mepham and Lefay are on the 16-yard line as defensive cover here, but they don't stand as deep as where Rigg was when the ball is defended. And when blades break, both are caught behind play. And this time, the crossfield runner has the jump on Lefay. Hamer plays in Tyrese Campbell for a finish his dad would have been proud of, and the Blades are in front.
The classic counter-punch!
No team has come back from behind in this game for 29 years. Now Sunderland were trailing, and Sunderland had also not won a game at Wembley they didn't score first in since 1937. But Sheffield United started to sit off. Why? I don't know. But they allowed Sunderland to have the ball and sat back. And Sunderland started to find success behind a Gus Hamer reluctant to defend. Hume pushed the ball in that Mayenda took early and headed over.
Between the defenders, and he'll be disappointed. He really should be doing better.
Moments later, Hume again got in behind Hamer on the half-hour mark, and the Blades continued to sit back.
Before Kiefer Moore's header and that brilliant save from Patterson.
There's Hume, he might have found an inroad here, it's Rigg. And Robinson avoiding the corner.
Then Sheffield got their first corner of the game, and a solid headed clearance saw a first-time volley from Harrison Burrows fly past Patterson into the goal.
Fired in by Burrows!
And it is a long way back now. But this game has a video assistant referee, who noticed that Vinny Souza runs in front of Pato in an offside position, causing Pato to be unsighted.
So, Vinny Souza's position, the key, and the impact on Anthony Patterson. And Chris.
All of this led to the referee being sent to his own silly little taped-off square of grass to watch the TV, only to announce
what the decision is. After review, Sheffield United 21 is in the line of vision of the goalkeeper and clear impacts. Final decision, no goal, offside.
Gear in. The goal was chucked off. VAR, an excellent development in football, I have to say. I'm all for it. Super stuff, really, really.
Coming to the correct decision.
Well, it's a lifeline. It really.
If that goal had stood, Sunderland were in all likelihood dead and buried, and they needed to get a hold of themselves now. By now, Mepham had swapped with Ballard to try and deal with Kiefer Moore better. Despite seeming to struggle, Sunderland had come into the game since conceding the goal. In the last 20 minutes of the first half, Sunderland had 77% of the possession with a 91% pass success rate. We were dominating play, mostly down the right. Blades largely were content to sit back and allow Sunderland possession in the back line. Instead, Sheffield focused on blocking off the double pivot and their passing lanes ahead of them. There's just no easy through ball for our two creative pivots here, and it was working. Sure, we had the ball and we kept it. Trouble is, we couldn't get Lefay and Mayenda on the ball, and Lefay in particular started to drop deeper to collect it, and so it went.
Lefay.
Mayenda getting thin chances.
Mayenda in there. threatening. Robinson had to get that right, and absolutely.
Lefay dropping deeper to get on the ball more meaningfully.
Here's Mundle.
And Blades blocking passing lanes.
Mepper. Lefay. Neil.
And looking to counter.
Sheffield United.
Jack Robinson's experience there, kicking in round on the cover goal side of his man. Brilliant positioning.
Oh, Harmer. Well, he's in that sort of mood. That didn't come off, but...
And that was half-time.
Takes a bit of tempo to the play.
Sunderland seemingly lucky to be only 1 goal down, but ending up dominating play.
Due to Vinny Souza affecting Anthony.
I'm not sure what Regis said to the lads at half-time, but it must surely have been to point out that this is what they wanted. As a player, you don't get to Wembley very often in your life, and chances to be a winner here are remote. This, lads, is what you want, and you might not get another chance at it. And sure enough, Sunderland came out for the second half full of fire, determined to give everything.
He'd end in the hospital, to be honest, so he's had to...
Job played more advanced to try to link up with Lefay and break that Sheffield mid-block.
Doing his utmost to ensure his time on it.
That he did, because it's brilliant link-up play.
They pressed harder and faster right from the off.
Neil to Bellingham.
And Sunderland flooded the box with more players to try and engineer more chances.
Well forward, and that's certainly more positive from Sunderland.
The intensity brought more shots.
Here's Mundle. Immediately asking.
Neil and Mundle here.
And Neil denied at a crucial moment by Brewster's Industry. Chowdhury gets a foot to it.
But Blades was still looking to play on the counter.
Hume, Lefay. A player whose capacity for invention Sheffield United can't afford and surely won't underestimate. Peck, that's a very good ball indeed for Moore. Campbell's up with him. And so too now is Rhian Brewster.
Well, some brilliant defending.
Now the game was purely about Sunderland pushing to equalise and Sheffield trying to catch them out to kill the game.
Rig clearing the stage for him a bit. That's beyond Enzo Lefay.
Largely, we seemed at this point to have stabilised the defence and were just about covering the counters.
There were a few games back then that were crazy, weren't they?
We still had no way through to goal. So, Regis rolled the dice early, bringing on Patrick Roberts for Rig, despite him being injured with a torn calf muscle. And he sent him inside, with Hume pushing up to play the winger.
While Callum O'Hare offers different...
It wasn't all the time, but here you can see Lefay, Job and Roberts adding numbers, trying to find a way through in that central panel.
But those two were the two to go off.
And Hume plays as the winger to try and make that overload.
And Campbell protected and preserved ahead of the second leg in the semi-final. Sirkin taking the low road.
Chris Wilder made substitutions of his own though, seeking more pace on the counter. And when Sirkin stalled on the ball, Andre Brooks looked like he was in.
Potentially the final quarter. And Sirkin hesitated, and it's Brooks!
Pato went the wrong way, but at the last minute stretched out the leg and once again kept Sunderland in the game.
That left foot, all important. It's kept Sunderland in the game again.
Yeah, big style.
Roberts was starting to have an impact now, though. His runs on the wing drew double markers and fouls. Here, the lino flags, but the referee overrules him. But every time he draws an extra marker, there's space inside for others. Gustav Hamer had had enough now. He didn't want to spend the rest of the afternoon chasing Roberts and Hume down the right. He left the field for Ben, Burt and Diaz, and the crowd sensed momentum shifting and lifted the players. Regis felt it too, and went for it, bringing on Watson and Isidore for Neil and Mundle, pushing up even more numbers onto a passive Sheffield United side. Now, with their main creator off the field.
Sunderland game at Bramall Lane against Sheffield United back in November.
Sunderland now sat 4-4-2, and Le dropped beside Job as the pivot.
Circumstances, this was as far from normal circumstances as you can get.
And within minutes, the culmination of all these changes paid off. The second ball is won. The Sheffield defence now have two attackers to deal with, and Roberts appears inside to create an overload. And watch the movement here. The two wingers turn inside, and the two strikers peel off outside. It's beautiful running that tears holes in the Blades' backline. And Paddy plays the most perfect reverse ball, splitting the defenders to find Mayenda.
Lefay finding Roberts, by far Sunderland's best move! Mayenda!
Boom shakalaka! He buries it.
Well, finally they put it together, and that is the result!
Once again, in a match of few chances, Eliza Mayenda was perfectly ready to take the one clean chance that came his way.
And Mayenda do that. He hasn't really done all the game. He peels off, he finds a bit of space, and a little bit like Tyrese Campbell, the first touch has to be good to give himself the chance to shoot. Watch this.
It's brilliance to soften the pass on the run and thunder that into the top of the net as it's travelling across the body. The natural instinct here is to hit it back across the goalkeeper, but that's easier to save. More high stakes, but more reward to hit the roof of the net. That's confidence. And with that, Sunderland were level, and Eliza Mayenda had become the second youngest player to score in a playoff final, having only turned 20 a week ago.
16 days into his 21st year. 20. Only earlier this month. The day before.
The noise was thunderous from the West End, and the Blades looked cowed by it. From the restart, it was all Sunderland. Job had a strike.
What he believes they possess, now they have to prove it. Bellingham.
Well, momentum shift.
And then fed the ball to Wilson for a shot.
Wilson Isidore. Might yet run for Roberts.
And the weight of history seemed to coalesce as Hume channeled every pulverising right back that had worn the shirt before him and killed Brereton Diaz.
Diaz clearly playing the ball, could take a bit of the man as well. There's a fullback, that's exactly the situation.
There was a winner to be had here, and as 7 minutes of added time was announced, only one team looked like they could grab it. Roberts drove but lost the ball. Blades tried to ping it long to Moore in hope, and he knocked it down, but Tommy Watson picked it up, and everything seemed to slow down.
Watson. Oh! And what a parting gift that is!
He plays a stray pass, one of the few, and he is punished in the extreme. And look, Tommy Watson, he's had some stick from the Sunderland fans. But I'll tell you what, if that is his parting gift, they will forgive him for eternity. And what a finish!
The winning goal conceded by an unsighted keeper. The irony.
They don't close him down and they pay the price.
Yeah, you give the ball away, that's one thing, but the opposition have to capitalise. Tommy Watson here, he uses Vinny Souza as like a screen.
And for the second time today, a Sunderland goalscorer became the second youngest player to ever score in a playoff final.
What a turnaround. They didn't score until the 76th minute, Sunderland. And now seemingly the game and promotion is theirs.
Well, Sunderland's young guns have certainly hit the target.
At the restart, there was just 2 minutes of time left to play, but Regis sent on the Pope for Mayenda to go 5-4-1 and shore up the lead. And reaching into the heavens, he headed clear of Blade's free kick. And time now was surely up. But the ref kept playing. Wilson held the ball. Lefay drove upfield for a foul and exploded with joy as time ebbed away.
Enzo Lefebvre, that's what it means to win a foul in a playoff final in this position.
Regis Le Bris was surely just moments away from glory.
The final minutes of the season, and we get extraordinary drama.
Sheffield United panicked and sent the ball into touch.
Yeah, I mentioned Regis Le Bris.
Watson, he had a lot to do, and there were other little bits involved in that. It wasn't just that he gave the ball away.
One of England's great football clubs is truly reborn.
And that was it. Sunderland had won the richest game of football on the planet, on the biggest stage.
Humiliation of successive relegations. 4 seemingly eternal years in League One. Sunderland are once again where they should always strive to be.
The lads had struggled initially, but gradually Regis had made tactical changes that first shored up the back line and then incrementally put attacking pressure on the Blades' defence until he found a breakthrough. Sure, it took time to get there, but each change was a deliberate effort to try to get there. Most pundits claim after the game that Sheffield were the better side. Beyond the first 20 minutes, I don't agree. They say that because they failed to see the game and tactical developments as a whole flexible event. And that word is what marks Regis Le Bris out in this division. Flexible. He has shown throughout the season that he has multiple plans to try to win a game. They don't always work, but we don't suffer the problems of Borough, Coventry or Blades of being good in only one style of play. Regis Le Bris had taken a team that finished 16th last season to the Premier League at the first attempt, and he hadn't once worried like some of us had. 5 of the players on the field today had first played for us in League One and had now taken the club all the way to the top. All round, it was a quite staggering performance. All the pundits had said we were too naive, too young, and gave us little chance. Not since 1937 had Sunderland come from behind at Wembley, and that was also the last time a local boy had captained the side to victory at Wembley. Perhaps even more extraordinary, 4 players on the pitch, including the winning goalscorer, were born within 15 miles of the Stadium of Light. That is something of a modern miracle in football. At the final whistle, the last 30 years poured out of me and I cried. Because most of the time, supporting Sunderland has been hard. Disappointment comes with the territory. And we've just had to stomach it because it seems like that's just the way it goes. But sometimes, just sometimes, it goes the other way too.
And Neil, Sunderland to the core, lifts the trophy that proclaims to the world, Sunderland are back.
And today, after the most miserable period in our history, we were back, baby. Maybe to stay, maybe just for a short time. But that is all for another time. Because I'm Sunderland till I die. See you soon, Maras.
They said we'd be mid-table, 14th at best. A season of struggle, a season of stress. But the lads had a plan, and they played with finesse. Now look at the table, go on, have a guess. Well, we're taking the piss with Regis Le Bris. Fast-flowing football, it's poetry this. They doubted, they scoffed, now they're watching in awe as Sunderland rise with an almighty roar. They laughed when he came from a league far away. That Frenchman, who's he? What's he got to say? But he gave them a lesson, he showed them the way. And the championship's getting more nervous each day. The defence is still iffy, we wince every time. Pato clears out a back pass from 09. But we've got Chris Metham, and we can be sure he'll knock those balls clear, of that we're assured. Well, we're taking the piss with Regis Le Bris, a well-oiled machine, what sorcery is this? The lads keep on running, they fight for the crest, and suddenly Sunderland's one of the best. From the Roker end to Paris, they're singing his name. A gaffer so cool, he's rewriting the game. The doubters have vanished, the critics gone quiet, as the stadium bounces a red and white riot. The midfield is strong and we're doing okay, with Job in the middle and Enzo Lafay. Dan Neil just behind them, Chris Rigg keeping score, pumping balls forward to big Isidore. So pour out the pints and let's make a toast to the Frenchman in the dugout the fans love the most. The Black Cats are roaring, there's no looking back, and promotion, well mate, that's just a fact. Well, we're taking the piss with Regis Le Bris, a season of magic, a team full of bliss. The doubters all silenced, the doubters all gone. Sunderland's rising, so bring it all on.